Hello. We have been discussing about Greek philosophy, and in today's lecture we continue to discuss about the Greek philosopher Pythagoras and why number has been the arche for him. This is Dr. Ananya Barua, Associate Professor in the Department of Philosophy, Hindu College. Now the first question again is, how did Pythagoras come up with an arche as abstract as number? How could he conceive number to be the be-all and end-all? What are the philosophical reasons behind this discovery? Though some bit of this discussion has already been taken ahead in our previous lecture, we still continue more. Pythagoras' conception of number, which is arithmos, as arche, the first principle or origin of all things, is one of the boldest philosophical moves in antiquity. Here is a layered explanation of how and why he might have conceived number as the fundamental reality, supported by philosophical reasoning and historical context. Point number 1. Philosophical context from mythos to logos. Before Pythagoras, which is about 570 to 495 BCE, explanations of the cosmos were mostly mythological in nature, vis-a-vis Hesiod, Homer. The pre-Socratics, beginning with Thales and Anaximander, shifted towards naturalistic and abstract principles, a movement from mythos to logos. For instance, for Thales, water is the arche, Anaximander, epeiron, the indefinite or the infinite. For Heraclitus, it was fire and logos. Pythagoras went a step further, and instead of a physical substance, he proposed an abstract, non-material principle, number, as the true essence of reality. Now, why number? The discovery of mathematical harmony. Pythagoras and his followers discovered that harmony in music corresponds to simple numerical ratios. Example, a string half the length of another produces a roll an octave higher, which is 1:2. Other harmonies, which is 2:3, perfect fifth, or 3:4, perfect fourth, this was not just observation but a revelation. Qualitative experiences like sound and beauty arise from quantitative relationships. Thus, the Pythagorean maxim, all things are numbers. Point number 3, philosophical justification. Number as order, limit and structure. Order over chaos. Numbering brings structure, limit and proportion to the otherwise infinite and chaotic structure. The cosmos for Pythagoras is a cosmos, a beautiful ordered whole. We also see that it is so structured, so beautiful that it had to be governed by mathematical ratios. Further, the intelligibility and the universality. Numbers are not subject to change. Unlike water or fire, numbers are stable, eternal and intelligible. They can be grasped by reason, nous. Philosophical insight is that what is most real is that which is most knowable and most permanent. Geometry and spatial reality, the geometrical figures, the triangle, square, circle are formed from numbers. The tetricities, which is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equivalent to 10, was sacred, symbolizing cosmic harmony and the totality of existence. Metaphysical vision, number as essence. Pythagoreans believed that the soul was a kind of number. Justice is 4 because 2 into 2, equality and symmetry. Health, for example, was number 7, possibly due to the 7 bodily parts of planetary harmonies. Even and odd numbers had moral and metaphysical qualities. Odd is male, even female. Hence, every aspect of reality, physical, ethical, spiritual, was grounded in number. Mystical and religious dimensions. Pythagoras was not only a mathematician but also a mystic. He believed in transmigration of souls, implying a spiritually orderly cosmos. Purification of the soul came through understanding the cosmic order, number and harmony. So number was just not a tool, it was the ontological fabric of the cosmos and the path to divine wisdom. So why was this revolutionary compared to others? We see that Thales was substance-based, empirical, Anaximander was abstract but indefinite, Pythagoras was fully abstract and rational principle, an early form of idealism. He laid the foundation of Plato, who would later argue that all forms or ideas are even more real than physical things, and mathematics is the doorway to their apprehension. Now, this very feature as to the mystical and the religious dimension, that thus number is not a plain tool, it is a sacred number and it is the path to divine wisdom, takes me to a dialogue between Pythagoras and Sri Aurobindo on sacred number and the order of consciousness in this lecture ahead now. To engage deeply with the thought of Pythagoras and Sri Aurobindo, it is important to distinguish between primary sources, texts by or directly about them from their own time, and secondary sources, which is the later interpretations, analysis or biographies. Pythagoras' primary sources or the direct texts are scarce, unfortunately. Pythagoras himself left no writings, but whatever we know of his thought comes from later Pythagoreans and ancient commentators. In the PPT as being displayed here, Pythagoreans' symbolism of number from 1 to 9, the sources, golden verses, author attributed to early Pythagoreans, the content, ethical aphorisms summarizing Pythagorean's life. We also have the source from fragments of Philolaus of Croton, and content has been about the first to write down Pythagorean's doctrines, cosmos structured by numbers. Our other source has been the life of Pythagoreans written by Porphyry. The content has been the biography including mystical and mathematical aspects. We also have the source of the life of Pythagoras by the author Lambilichius. Content has been the Neoplatonic synthesis of Pythagoreanism, sacred numerology and purification. We also have metaphysics by Aristotle, and the content has been largely where he mentions Pythagorean's view that numbers are the principles of things. So the original Pythagorean teachings were esoteric and oral, were kept secret within the community, and later Neoplatonists reconstructed them through a mystical lens. Now, the secondary sources, we find the Pythagorean source book and library from Kenneth Sylvan Guthrie. Description has been the compilation of all of them. Further, we also have Score's work on Pythagoras and the Delphic mysteries. There is also Professor Kirk and Revin's work on the pre-Socratic philosophers, and there is Ferguson's work on Pythagoras, his lives and the legacy of the rational universe. And we see last but not least Lambilichius, which is translated by Waterfield's work on the theology of arithmetic, where he describes the treatise on the metaphysical meaning of numbers, which has been deeply Pythagorean. Now, if you talk about Sri Aurobindo's primary text, we have the Life Divine, which is again the core philosophical work that explains being, consciousness, involution, evolution and supermind. The Upanishads, Aurobindo's own translation and commentary, interprets Vedic wisdom as evolutionary consciousness. Essays on the Gita, it rereads the Bhagavad Gita from an evolutionary and action-based spirituality. We also have from the primary texts the human cycle that discusses human evolution through psychological and cultural stages, letters on yogi, the practical insights, correspondence on meditation, transformation and inner disciplines, Savitri, a legend and a symbol, where it is an epic poem revealing cosmic vision in poetic mystical form that contains encoded metaphysics. Secondary sources, of course, are many, some of which have been Sri Aurobindo, a contemporary reader by Sachidananda Mohanty, where it brings together key readings on Aurobindo's thought for modern scholarship. The Philosophy of Sri Aurobindo by Devi Prasad Chattopadhyay, where the comprehensive analysis of his metaphysics and epistemology is seen. We also have Haridas Chaudhary's Sri Aurobindo and the Future Psychology, where Aurobindo's impact on consciousness studies and future human development. We also have Satprem's Sri Aurobindo, The Adventure of Consciousness, a deeply immersive, semi-experiential introduction to Aurobindo's vision. We also have Debashish Banerjee's Integral Yoga Psychology that connects Aurobindo's thought to Jungian and modern psychological models. There are also a few more which we can see as being displayed in the PPT, and definitely David Frawley's Yoga and the Sacred Fire, where he talks about Vedic numerology, symbolism and Aurobindo's reinterpretation of ancient cosmology. So we see that there have been various primary and secondary sources to decode Sri Aurobindo's work and of course Pythagoras' work. Now let us analyze in detail the Pythagorean notion of number as RK and its correspondence with Indian philosophical ideas, particularly from the following. Now, RK, as we have already discussed, means first principle, the foundational element from which everything arises. So, the Pythagorean's thesis has been that number is not merely a tool for counting, but the essence of all reality. He claimed that all is number, meaning that the structure, harmony and order of the cosmos are fundamentally numerical. Mathematics becomes a form of metaphysical insight and not just abstraction. Now, while ancient Indian philosophy does not assert number as RK in the exact same way, several traditions give ontological and cosmological significance to numbers, patterns and sacred geometry. If we are to talk about some of the schools of Indian philosophy, we see that as in the PPT displayed here, RK, or the first principle in the Pythagorean philosophy, there is number. In the Indian philosophy, Sankhya, Vedanta and the Tantra, Brahman or non-dual unity or Prakriti as primordial nature is seen. When there is the theme of cosmic order, Pythagoreans, we see cosmos is harmonized through numerical ratios. Indian philosophy, the Rita or the cosmic law, dharma, sustain order. About duality or number 2, it introduces polarity or even limited, unlimited as discussed in Indian philosophy. The concept of Purusha, Prakriti dualism in Sankhya, Maya, Brahman in Vedanta is seen. Numerical symbolism, when you talk about 10, the perfect number, we have in the Indian philosophy the 3 gunas, the 5 elements, the 7 chakras, the 9 grahas and the 108, the mala beads. The sacred geometry, if we talk about the various models of the tetrahedral, triangle, square, pentagram, we also see Sri Yantra, the mandalas, cosmology in Vastu. About the music and number, there is harmony in musical intervals. We also see in the Indian philosophy the Nada Yoga, sound as source of the Sapteshwara or the mantra signs. Further, in the theme of unity and diversity, in Pythagoras, where all numbers arise from 1, in Indian philosophy, Brahman manifests as diversity via Maya or gunas. And about the spiritual ascent, we see in Pythagoras through mathematical knowledge and harmony, in Indian philosophy through self-realization, jnana yoga and aligning with cosmic rhythm. So, for Pythagoreans, numbers are beings with ontological status, and similarly in Tantra and Yoga, numbers represent stages of spiritual unfolding. Now that we have kind of seen this, while there is no direct evidence that Pythagoras had access to Indian texts, some scholars speculate about Indo-Greek cultural exchange, particularly through Persia and Babylon. Trade and travel routes, the Silk Road precursors, were conduits for ideas. So, though developed independently, both Pythagorean and Indian philosophies share a deep numerical spiritual ontology. They reveal that a cosmos that is not chaotic but governed by mathematical or metaphysical law, a spiritual part aligned with order, harmony, and intellect or intuitive insight, unity behind multiplicity, whether symbolized by the monad or Brahman. Now, among modern Indian philosophical systems, the one that most closely resonates with the Pythagoreans of number is RK, where numbers are not just quantitative but metaphysical and ontological would be. Now, here, when we talk about Sri Aurobindo's integral philosophy, why it resonates with Pythagorean, let us understand. Cosmos as an ordered manifestation of consciousness. Like Pythagoras saw numbers as the structuring principles of the cosmos, Aurobindo speaks of the universe as a graded manifestation of Sachidananda, which is existence, consciousness, and bliss. This manifestation follows lawful, rhythmic, and geometric unfoldings very much akin to numerical harmony. Aurobindo introduces the concept of the supermind, a divine consciousness that organizes reality in precise gradations. This organizing intelligence has an almost Pythagorean flavor in the rhythmic, harmonious, geometrical, and behind all phenomena. In the Life Divine, Aurobindo says, quote, "Mind works by division and aggregation. Supermind works by identity, but with precision and multiplicity," unquote. We also see the tantric influence and sacred geometry, where Aurobindo integrates tantric and Vedanta streams. He speaks of yantras, chakras, and numbers as symbolic and aspects of spiritual reality. The Sri Chakra and the psychic centers or the chakras are mapped in geometrical and numerical forms very much like Pythagoreans' cosmograms. And just as the monad gave rise to all numbers, Aurobindo sees one Brahman manifesting as multiplicity through Maya or Shakti with ordered progression. Now, the other Indian thinkers with Pythagorean echoes, we see some traces with Swami Vivekananda, where he emphasized a cosmic rhythm and sound, Om, as a source of being. His interpretations of Nada Brahman and universal law touch upon the idea of metaphysical order behind appearance. Sri Ramana Maharishi, we also see where he talks about the focused on the primordial I, like monad, as the source of all experience. Though not mathematical, the Advaitic introspection on square resembles Pythagorean's return to the one. We also have Pandit Motilal Shastri and Ganapati Muni, the Tantric Vedantins, which is engaged in detailed numerical symbolism of mantras, bindos, nada, spanda, and the Tantric cosmograms closer to Pythagorean mystical numerology. So, why Sri Aurobindo is the closest, and this is just a humble thinking out of the box. It is because when we talk about the unity of being, in Pythagoras it is clearly monad or number one. In Sri Aurobindo it is Sachidananda. Now, about the ordered cosmos, Pythagoras was clear about it being harmony of spheres. Sri Aurobindo talks about cosmic gradation via supermind. When we talk about the geometric sacred forms, Pythagoras says it is tetricities. Sri Aurobindo says it is the Sri Chakra. Musical order, harmony through ratios. For Sri Aurobindo, it is cosmic rhythm, mantras and the nada. Mathematical ontology, for Pythagoras it is number as being. For Sri Aurobindo, it is consciousness with structured multiplicity. So, though there was no historical or literal dialogue between Pythagoras and Sri Aurobindo, as they are separated by more than 2 millennia and emerged from vastly different civilizational metrics, ancient Greece and colonial modern India respectively. However, the title Sacred Number and the Order of Consciousness, one can have a philosophical metaphor and imagined intellectual encounter or comparative thought experiment where we explore conceptual affinities between two thinkers who independently perceived the cosmos as an ordered, meaningful and metaphysical structure. Now, in the theme of ultimate reality, Pythagoras was clear that number or arithmos is the principle behind all being. Reality is structured, ordered and harmony. For Sri Aurobindo, being is consciousness bliss or Satchitananda is the ultimate truth. The cosmos is a manifestation of these through graded phases. The view of cosmos for Pythagoras is that cosmos is a harmonious order, and Sri Aurobindo had said that universe is a rhythmic unfolding of divine consciousness. Supermind mediates the one into the many with precision. Path to truth for Pythagoras, mathematical contemplation purifies the soul theories as mystical, ancient through number. For Sri Aurobindo, integral yoga aligns the individual with the cosmic rhythm, enabling ascent from mind to supermind. So, Pythagoras' numbers are ontological realities, not just quantities but qualitative principles. Example 1 is unity, 2 is duality, 3 harmony, 4 stability and so on. And with Aurobindo, while he does not use number as RK per se, he treats levels of consciousness as qualitative gradations from matter, life, mind, supermind, Satchitananda. So, both think in terms of structural gradation, a cosmos built in layers of perfection and precision, and this structural gradation screams of number implicitly. So, we see that Pythagoras had discovered musical intervals which related it to simple number ratios. He believed in celestial bodies that emit inaudible music of the spheres echoing divine harmony. With Sri Aurobindo, cosmic creation begins with Om and the Nada Brahman, sound of the essence of being. Speech, Vaka, rhythm and mantra hold the power to realign human consciousness with cosmic truth. So, sound as structured vibration reveals the numeric order of consciousness for both Pythagoras and Sri Aurobindo. Now, further in the Pythagorean's path, we see that ethical discipline, silence, vegetarianism, contemplation of numerical harmony has been there. In Aurobindo's yoga, integral yoga, which is surrender to divine, mental silence, psychic opening, ascending to the higher planes of consciousness has been there. The goal in Pythagorean's path has been the purification and return to the monad, one. For Aurobindo, it has been transformation and ascent to supermind and beyond. So, both paths involve self-discipline, contemplative ascent and reintegration with the cosmic order. Pythagorean's soul seeks purification through mathematical contemplation, seeing the beauty and order of the cosmos through number. Aurobindo's supermind is not rationalistic but a higher order metasis, a consciousness that sees truth directly, organizing multiplicity without division. In both, True knowledge is visionary, not empirical, seeing structure beneath surface. So we see that for Pythagoras, all arises from the monad. For Aurobindo, all arises from Sachidananda. For Pythagoras, multiplicity is ordered, not chaotic. For Sri Aurobindo, multiplicity emerges through supermind, divine determination, not chaos. So both affirm that diversity is rooted in unity and the cosmos is not accidental but structured intelligibly. So Pythagoras' idea of number as arche can absolutely be considered abstract, metaphysical, and in a deep philosophical sense, and it resonates with both the Indian concept of Brahman and the Eleatic notion of being. While they arise from different metaphysical traditions, all these three aim to identify a primordial underlying unchanging reality beneath the diversity of phenomena. So quickly now, number as arche basically means that the abstract qualities, which is it is invisible, eternal, intelligible, unmoving yet productive. It doesn't change, but everything else arises through the ratios, relations and forms of number. Thus, number as arche is not concrete. It is an ontological abstraction akin to forms in Plato, logos in Stoicism, Brahman in Vedanta, being in the Eleatic thought. Also, we have just about mentioned how we see that the concept of Brahman in Indian philosophy, which is the ultimate unchanging formless substratum of all that exists, is defined in Advaita Vedanta as Satchidananda. All names and forms, nama rupa, arise from Maya, but Brahman is the real non-dual truth. So the abstract qualities here, it is not an object, not even a concept, but that which makes all concepts and objects possible. So like the Pythagoreans number, Brahman is not visible, yet everything derives its order and being from it. Similarly, in the Eleatic being, Parmenides' nature of the being, only being is not, we see that it does means unchanging, eternal, indivisible, motionless, full and complete. And the nature of the eon or being is that all perceptions of change, multiplicity and motion is illusion or opinion, doxa. Thus, the qualities are that being is beyond sense perception, known only through reason or pure thought, and very similar in tone to both the Pythagorean number and Vedantic Brahman in being formless, eternal, one. So, there has been interesting parallels with the Pythagoreans number, Parmenides' being and Vedanta's Brahman into a comprehensive metaphysical framework, and it's a fascinating task. And although a few works directly compare all the three, there are rich scholarly resources on each and a growing field of comparative philosophy that breaches them indirectly. So there are primary texts and secondary texts of all these schools, which some of them I have already mentioned, and the interested ones can further go into the details of that. So today we have had discussed about Pythagoras' philosophy, and we have had tried to show the connect of Pythagoras' number and ratio as arche with our Indian philosophy's tone and flavor by bringing in Sankhya, Advaita Vedanta, and definitely by bringing in Sri Aurobindo. We have also tried to bring in the Eleatic concept of being and the concept of Brahman of Advaita Vedanta by connecting it with Pythagoras' number as arche. Thank you so much.